Has there been a time in your life where you gave up on something you thought you were really good at? Like you're working really hard and not seeing the progress you want. This is exactly what happens to Ayumu Fujino, the protagonist of the story called Look Back. Look Back is a manga one shot written by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who also wrote Chainsaw Man, Fire Punch, and Goodbye Eri. The next video I'm making is actually about Goodbye Eri, so stay tuned for that. Also, why are you making that face? I don't look that weak. Fujino is a sixth grade student whose passion is drawing manga. In the school newspaper, she would publish her four-panel manga stories, which the class really enjoyed reading and praises her for. She wants to come off as humble, but ends up acting more arrogant than humble. She's also extroverted, friendly, and confident in her ability as an artist. Becoming a manga artist is something she's considering as a career path in the future. The homeroom teacher asks her to deliver one of the newspapers to a girl named Kyomoto. Kyomoto is a shut-in who loves drawing manga, but doesn't come to school. She stays in her room all day and draws manga. The following week, the school newspaper is handed out again. This time, Kyomoto's four-panel manga appears right next to Fujino's. And immediately, things change. Kyomoto's artwork is stunning. The detail, composition, control, it's undeniable. The class is impressed, more impressed by Kyomoto's art than Fujino's. And what makes it worse is that Kyomoto is even younger than her. Fujino convinces herself that Kyomoto has an unfair advantage. Kyomoto doesn't go to school. She has all day to draw. That must be the reason, right? Fujino looks at ways to improve her art because of the competition that Kyomoto has brought in. She then spends her days drawing endlessly. She starts neglecting school. She stops spending time with her friends. And drawing stops becoming fun. It starts becoming something she has to win at. She wants to draw just as well, if not better, than Kyomoto. A couple of days pass by, and the teacher hands out the school newspaper where both Fujino and Kyomoto have their manga art displayed. Kyomoto's art is still significantly better, even with the extra time Fujino gave herself to become better. And this is where Fujino realizes something. No matter how hard she tries, that gap isn't closing. So she gives up. Even after all the time she spent, it wasn't good enough to be better than Kyomoto. Fujino is a great storyteller and had a simpler art style. Kyomoto had an aesthetic look that was appealing to the eye. And this was something Fujino could never replicate, no matter how much time she put in. Fujino decided that it's better to spend time elsewhere rather than draw all day. She starts hanging out with her friends again. She starts going to karate class with her sister and spends more time watching TV with the family. At this point, both Fujino and Kyomoto have graduated elementary school, and the homeroom teacher asks Fujino to deliver Kyomoto's graduation diploma. She reluctantly agrees and heads over to Kyomoto's house. She enters the home and drops the diploma at the front. Fujino quietly leaves as Kyomoto continues drawing. Kyomoto is really shy and keeps to herself, but really wanted to meet Fujino one day. She's a huge fan of her work and wanted to know how much her art meant. She just didn't have the courage to face her. Some years pass by and Kyomoto is much older, most likely in her early 20s. She decided that she wants to go to art school for college. She wants to improve and get better. She strives to become someone who can be relied upon in the art world. One day, she's sitting down on the second floor of the art department building, drinking juice alone by the sofa. She hears a metallic sound coming from the staircase and then sees a man enter with a strange looking object in his hand. Kyomoto is looking down until she eventually looks up to see the man looking at her. He's holding what appears to be a pickaxe he found in the art building. The strange man says the artwork he posted online was plagiarized. He looks to be mentally unstable and was going to kill any art student he saw for plagiarizing his work. He swings the pickaxe towards her and misses. He then pulls it out and tries again. but then is quickly stopped by Fujino. Fujino stops him but injures herself in the process. She ended up breaking her leg kicking the unstable man. They call an ambulance to take her to the hospital. She tells the paramedics that she was training at her dojo and decided to go for a jog until she saw that strange man enter with a weapon in his hand. She knew she had to stop him. Fujino shrugs off the pain and treats it like it's not a big deal. Kyoto walks over and thanks Fujino, but doesn't know it's that same Fujino that inspired her to become better at art. Kyoto asks for her phone number so that she can treat her once she's feeling better. Fujino agrees and gives her phone to her. Kyoto looks at her phone and sees the name Fujino at the top of her phone app. Kyoto asks if she's the same Fujino that drew the 4-panel manga strips back in elementary school. Fujino nods her head. Kyoto says she's a big fan of her work and it inspired her to get better and go to art school. Fujino is kind of shocked at the coincidence of meeting like this. They start to put Fujino in the ambulance, and Kyoto asks her a question. Why did you stop drawing manga? Fujino puts up a peace sign and says that she stopped, but started drawing again recently in her usual braggadocious manner. She's planning on writing a manga and wants Kyoto to be her assistant if it ends up being serialized. Fujino remembers how detailed Kyoto's art was and knows that if they work together, they can make something special. Kyoto smiles and looks forward to it. She goes home and looks through some of her and Fujino's artwork when they were in elementary school. It was silly, but now they get to work on a potentially fully serialized manga in Japan's biggest magazine. The future looks bright for these two young girls. However, what if I told you that I wasn't being completely honest? What if I told you that this whole event never happened? What if I told you that this is just a figment of Fujino's imagination? Let's go into detail on what really happens. When Fujino drops off the diploma, she doesn't actually leave Kyomoto's house straight away. Instead, Fujino is wondering if anyone is home and starts walking around. She sees a stack of books near Kyomoto's room, books about art and how to improve. She realizes that Kyomoto has been working really hard to become better. She walks over to Kyomoto's room and sees an empty 4-panel manga strip by one of the books. Fujino thinks it'd be a funny idea to draw a 4-panel manga illustration involving Kyomoto being a shut-in before realizing that this is pretty stupid. She ends up accidentally dropping the page, which slides under Kyomoto's door. Fujino runs out of the house in embarrassment over what she just did. Kyomoto comes out of the house yelling Fujino's name. She's shy, struggling to get her words out, but she's been a fan of Fujino's work for years. Fujino was the reason she started getting better in the first place, why she started drawing seriously. So Kyomoto asks for Fujino's autograph. Fujino's stunned. This is where she kind of realizes that while she was measuring herself against Kyomoto, Kyomoto was actually looking up to her. Kyomoto calls her a manga genius and wonders why she stopped drawing. Fujino was the reason she started getting better. Fujino says she didn't quit. She's just been thinking about entering a manga competition. She says it casually, trying to sound cool and nonchalant. This was a lie, but when she sees how excited Kyomoto becomes, something changes. She genuinely starts considering it. Kyomoto really wants to see what she's been working on and wants to learn from her. Fujino says that maybe she can show her once it's done. Some time passes, and Fujino decides to start drawing her own original manga called Metal Parade, mostly due to seeing Kyomoto's excitement. She asks Kyomoto to help draw the backgrounds while Fujino herself writes the story and does the character design. They spent a whole year effortlessly working on completing this manga and submitting it to Shueisha. The Shueisha representative was really impressed with their work and says they might receive an honorable mention in the Weekly Shonen Jump. Jump is the most popular weekly magazine in Japan. This could change their lives. So they anxiously await for the next week to come. They go to a 7-Eleven to buy the new copy of Jump. They turn page by page and eventually find Metal Parade in the honorable mentions. They can't believe it. All that hard work paid off in the best way possible. They celebrate by going into town. They made a lot of money from the manga and want to spend it and have a good time. Kyomoto is really anxious to go to the city, but Fujino drags her along. They eat crepes, watch a movie, get food, and buy some manga. On the train ride back home, Kyomoto says she had a lot of fun, even though she was scared to leave her room. She was afraid of interacting with others. She thanks Fujino for bringing her out of her comfort zone just a little bit. As time goes on, they spend a lot of time together, drawing and hanging out. They made manga one shots titled The Cicada Humans, The Man Who Ate the Crab, and Bagworm. They've built up a strong name for themselves as they got older. They were working effortlessly every day to make an impact. By the age of 17, they get the best news ever. A Shueisha representative says that they got an offer to serialize a manga that they've been working on called Short Kick. Fujino is ecstatic, but Kyomoto looks a little down. After the meeting with the Shueisha representative, Kyomoto tells Fujino that she wants to go to art school and can't help with Short Kick. Fujino seemed upset but was trying to hide it. She wants Kyomoto to stay with her in a selfish kind of way. She says art school will be boring and it'll be difficult for her to handle college life on her own. She insists that she shouldn't go to art school. It's not going to help her get a job, and she'll struggle talking to other people since she lacks the necessary social skills and awareness. Kyomoto says that she wants to try living on her own and doesn't want to rely on Fujino. She wants to try her best to start doing these things so she can become better at art. Fujino seemed to be really upset, but doesn't show it and accepts her decision. Fujino says that things should be fine and she can have her assistants help with the background in an almost arrogant kind of way. It feels like she doesn't really need Kyomoto as much as she thought. Shark Kick is now in serialization, which means it's time to get to work for Fujino. The first couple of volumes actually didn't sell too well, which meant she had to improvise and work harder to improve the story and art style as the series went on. However, by the time it reached volume 10, it had become a major success and was top ranked on the Weekly Shonen Jump. Things are looking great for Fujino. She's tired and worn out from the stress of the deadlines, but made it to the top rank of the best magazine in the country after all the hard work. As she's working on the next chapter of Shark Kick, she has the news on next to her workstation. They're reporting that a man with an axe-like weapon has attacked a couple of students at the art university in Yamagata. That's the school Kyomoto attends. Fujino panics and rushes to her phone to call Kyomoto. She's worried. She's fidgeting while walking around the office. The phone rings and rings and rings, but there's no answer. Soon after, she gets a call from her mom. She explains to her the situation, and her voice is drowning out and getting quieter. Fujino drops her phone. 12 people at the art school were killed, and one of those people killed was Kyomoto. Sharkik goes on hiatus so Fujino can attend her funeral. After the funeral, she goes to Kyomoto's house, broken and distraught. There's nothing she can do to fix this. It feels like a piece of her soul has died. Outside of her room, she finds a copy of a Shortcake volume sitting on one of the art books. Kyomoto was still looking on and supporting Fujino's work. Fujino goes through the volume and finds that 4 panel manga strip she made as a joke when they were kids. The trajectory of Kyomoto's life changed when she saw that manga strip. Fujino then begins to blame herself. She's sad and infuriated that she drew this manga strip. It got her killed. It got Kyomoto killed. What was the point of doing all of this if she had to die? It all feels useless. This is the reality that she struggles to accept. The imaginary comic she drew, the one where she saves Kyomoto, is titled Look Back. This scenario and comic strip I pointed out was a figment of her imagination, what she wishes could have happened. It's her way of coping, of rewriting the past, of giving herself a moment where things didn't end this way. But Kyomoto was meant to die regardless of if they had met or not. Her kicking and stopping the mentally unstable murderer was just a way to accept that Kyomoto may have lived. Fujino then enters Kyomoto's room and sees a bunch of older 4 panel manga strips taped onto her window. When she turns around, she sees the jacket that Kyomoto used to wear in elementary school hung up behind her door. It still has Fujino's autograph signed onto it. Fujino once believed Kyomoto was the one who needed her. But looking back, she understands the truth. She needed Kyomoto more than she ever thought. She needed her passion, her belief, her presence. She wouldn't have pushed herself forward without her. She didn't know if she wanted to continue Shortcake after Kyomoto's death. But now she realizes that she has a debt to owe to Kyomoto. She doesn't get here without her. Fujino returns to her studio and tapes a 4 panel manga comic to the window, just like Kyomoto used to. She gets back to work. She realizes that life must go on, no matter how hard things get. She wants to finish this manga series and dedicate it to Kyomoto, the girl who pushed her to be better. Look Back isn't about regret or change. It's about how deeply our lives affect others, often without us even realizing it. Sometimes looking back isn't about staying stuck. Sometimes looking back is the only way to move forward. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I think Look Back is a criminally underrated short film and manga one shot that doesn't really get talked about enough. It's like a short story that had us at the edge of our seats and wanting more when it was over. Even I feel like I didn't fully encapsulate what made this story as good as it actually is, although I tried my best. I personally wasn't even a huge fan of Fujino at first, but she kind of grew on me as the movie went along. I thought both characters were great and complemented each other, and I think that's what made them successful in their art journey. It was Fujino's talent and Kyomoto's passion that made them the ultimate team and pushed them to do their best. Both needed each other in ways that they didn't even know. Let me know in the comments if there's something I missed or something you found really interesting yourself, which I didn't mention. I hope this video was informative and helped you see Look Back in a more positive light. If not, I hope to do better in the next video. Thanks for listening.